So g'day guys, and welcome back to a video with a little bit of difference today. So I felt like that I wanted to contribute a little bit more to our channel, and seeing as Ray is such a great tour guide, I thought I'd leave him to it, and my place of comfort is in the kitchen. So we're going to start adding a new segment in where I'll run you through some recipes. It'll be a combination of sweets and savouries and all the favourite things that we like to cook here in our household, and I'm going to call it Em's Caravan Cooking. So without further ado, I'm going to get started today on a sweet recipe. It is a big favourite here in our household. We do like to make it, great for afternoon teas or just that little sweet treat at night time, hot with a bit of ice cream. But let's get started with my chopped coconut slice. Alright, so first of all, I'm going to run you through everything that you need to make this one. So we start with 150 grams of butter. This needs to be melted, but obviously cooled back down to the extent that it's not going to start cooking things because it's too hot. Alright, so 150 grams butter, 1 cup of brown sugar. Now, I don't know if you know, but with your brown sugar when you are measuring it out, I don't know if you can see that there, but you need to make sure that one is firmly packed down in the cup, right? So don't just shake in a cup of brown sugar, you need to shake it in and keep packing it down till it's nice and firm there. 1 egg, just 1 regular egg, some vanilla essence or extract, whatever you prefer. We have vanilla essence on hand, so that will do. Here in the bowl, I've mixed the flours together so we don't take up too much space. But anyway, we've got in here 1/2 cup of plain flour and 1/3 of a cup of self-raising flour. So 2 different types of flour. We have 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, and lastly 1/2 cup of coconut. So just the desiccated coconut. You could probably use shredded coconut if you really wanted to, but this is fine and it mixes in really quite nicely. Alright, so step 1, preheating the oven. So I've already put the oven on outside to 180 degrees. If you have a fan forced oven, you need to pop that one at 160 degrees. So preheat your oven and grease and line a tin. Approximately 20 to 30 centimeters. This one is a little bit bigger, but it will still do the job. So nice tin, lined, ready to go. Alright, next step, we're going to place in our brown sugar. So just in a nice bowl, doesn't have to be heat proof or anything fancy. Put in the brown sugar, the butter, going to put in the vanilla. So with your vanilla, the recipe is about a teaspoon of vanilla, but through watching my grandma cooking, my mum cooking, I've always learnt just to use the cap. 1 capful of vanilla, but because I really like vanilla, I'm going to go about 1 and a bit caps of vanilla, but it's roughly a teaspoon. But if you're like me and you like a little bit extra, it doesn't hurt to pop a little bit extra in there. Alright, and then I'm going to pop the egg in. Now, I watched on a cooking show that you always crack the egg on a flat surface. Actually, I think it was Gordon Ramsay, wasn't it? Yeah. Gordon Ramsay. So you don't get any shell in there. But I just got shell in there. So, but anyway, if it works for you, good luck. But apparently cracking it on the flat surface is supposed to indent all the shell, and you don't actually get it in there, but it's failed me this time. We have used that method now for a little while and it's worked a treat. But anyway, moving on. So now we've got those things in, just give it a good mix through till it's well combined. Alright, so after mixing that one for probably about 5 minutes, it's just give or take how much gusto you give it. I don't like to give it too much gusto, but that's how it should look. Kind of a little bit like a syrup, I guess. Nice beautiful brown in colour, pretty sticky. Hopefully you guys can see that. I've got Ray as my cameraman today, and as you are all aware, if you're not, he's blind, so it's kind of potluck as to what he's actually pointing this at. But here's hoping you can see what we're doing.
Hey, if it doesn't work, at least we get to make another one, right?
We'll have to do a take 2 on this. But anyway, so now that you've got this all nice and mixed together, next step is to sift in the flours. So we just have a little good old cheapo here from Woolies because it's small and it doesn't take up much space. So just sift them in. There's no rule of thumb for this one. You can dump it all in and sift it at once, whatever. It's entirely up to you. It genuinely doesn't make a difference. But I like to just sift all my ingredients in once. So we're going to sift in both flours, and then we're going to add in the cocoa as well. So we're going to sift the cocoa powder through as well. So it's 1/4 cup of cocoa powder. Straight in. Alright, so once you've got those sifted in together, we're going to give that another good stir. Just folding it through gently. Don't get too aggressive with your stirring, or you're going to get all the cocoa powder fumes or whatever you want to call it coming up through. So it'll be a little bit stiff to start with, but once you get it moving, it will all start to mix together nicely. Alright, so once you give that a good mix, it probably, again, same as the mixing in the butter and the sugar, probably only take you 2 or 3 minutes, give or take, again, depending on how much gusto you give it. So that took me probably about 3 minutes just then. So you'll see it will be kind of sticky, but kind of thick at the same time. It's really odd, and if you don't notice, it won't be really sticking to the bowl like a cake batter would. So any avid bakers out there, it doesn't take much effort to pull it off the side of the bowl. That's a copious amount of butter. But anyway, last step for this one, we're going to we're going to chuck in 1/2 cup of coconut. And then same thing again, just give that one a quick fold through. Okay, so literally only takes a couple of minutes there to buzz in that coconut. Now you'll see the texture has changed once again. So it's very thick. Almost looks like a bit of a runny cookie dough. So very thick. It no longer falls off the spatula. Now what I like to do here in our household, you can choose not to do this if you like, chopped chips. Alright, so
that is a must.
they get really gooey and melty if you still eat it when it's a little bit warm, so hot tip, well worth it. I literally have no measurement for the chopped chips, so I'm really sorry about that. I'll show you how I measure it. Good old handful, in it goes. You could add more or less if you wanted to, but I mean, if you start adding too much more, it's going to get really soft and gooey and be a bit too much chocolatey. I don't think it would set properly.
I think it'd start turning into like a brownie.
Yeah, I think you wouldn't have enough of that nice slicey texture. So just really roughly mix them through. It doesn't need to be anything fancy or special. Grab our tin that we have prepared and literally just scoop it in. So scrape it all off the sides. It doesn't take much to scrape it off because of the butter content. It pretty well just falls out. Alright, and then what we need to do is just spoon it over. Just spread him out. So it's a little bit like spreading your Vegemite or your Nutella on your sandwich. Just give it a bit of a spread. Try and make it nice and even, because this recipe doesn't actually like raise up very much or fluff up like a cake or anything like that. It does come up a little bit, but you need to try and get that as even as possible. And then just for good luck, I always give it a little sprinkling of chopped chips on the top. Alright, that's the hard part done. So now we're going to go out and pop this one in the oven. Alright, so pop that one in the oven for about 30 minutes. So top shelf, always on the top shelf. My reasoning for that is it doesn't get too hot on the bottom. There's no real rule for that. I just do top shelf. Alright, so we'll give that 30 minutes. Well, for me it'll be 30 minutes and we'll come back out and check it, but for you guys, so we'll just pull this one out and have a bit of a look at it, make sure it is all cooked. It smells amazing. Alright, so all done. Nice and firm and crunchy to the touch. But then my surefire way, slip the knife in, perfectly clean, right? So nice and firm, slightly crunchy, ready to go. I'll see you inside. Alright, so once you bring this one inside, you need to just set it down. Okay, so we'll leave this one to sit here and cool just slightly, but while it's still hot, we'll head over for part 2 of the slice and prep the icing. Alright, so for running through the icing here, we've got 1.5 cups of icing sugar, 1/4 cup of cocoa, 20 grams of butter. We don't need to pre-melt it because we're going to do it all on the stove here, and about 2 good tablespoons of water. So, to start with, let's light the stove. We don't need this on flat out hot boiling temperature, but pretty warm, ready for the boil. So, gonna pop in the water first. Now, I've used water that is already a little bit warm. So I'm going to pop the butter straight in. So butter and water straight in. Alright, and then now we'll just give that a minute. Alright, so once you can see a little bit of steam and everything coming off of this, heat off. Turn it off. You don't need to take it off, like the pot will stay hot whether it's sitting there or not. So heat off, but we're going to start sifting in the icing sugar. So we'll sift in the icing sugar. There's no right or wrong, again, there's no rhyme or reason. We bang it all in and then we've got to whisk it relatively quickly. So just sift it in. I mean, you could probably try and not sift this in, but it's just to basically get the lumps out so you don't have lumpy icing, really. So just bang it all in there. So at the same time, as soon as we finish sifting in the icing sugar, we will be sifting in the cocoa powder. Alright, so as you can see, nice and smooth. It should look a little bit like melted chocolate, right? So now while this is nice and hot, we're going to head back over to the slice and pop this straight on it. Alright, so trusty spatula to scoop it out. This action needs to happen fairly quickly while everything is still hot. So literally just going to scrape it and pour it straight across the top of the slice. Scrape as much out as you can. The more icing you get, the more that's going to soak through this beautiful slice and make it all gooey. Alright, so that's out. I'll just pop that over there and then just spread it out over the entire top of the slice, just bearing in mind that your pan may be still a little bit hot. Just get a nice good coverage. Go right to the edges too, because if you pop it all the way to the edges, it will sort of seep down on the side of it just a tad and make it all nice and gooey and chocolatey. Alright, so all spread out. While it is all hot, we're going to sprinkle some coconut over the top. Now, if you're making this for the kids or something, you can choose to put sprinkles over the top, I guess. But we like our coconut here, so you can be as generous or as light up on the coconut as you like. I like to put a lot on because obviously not everything is every piece that you put on here is gonna stick. So when you cut it, it allows for all the little bit extras to fall off. But anyway, like I said, you could put sprinkles on this. If you really wanted to, you could put crushed nuts or I don't know, any kind of topping you would expect. It also goes too for the filling. If perhaps you don't like coconut, like this recipe is not gospel, like 100% take this recipe, have a go at it, have another go at it again, and then turn it into your own. You can put, I mean, Ray and I were talking about it just before while we were waiting for it to cook, that you could totally put chopped cherries in this if you want, for a chopped coconut cherry or a bit of grated orange zest. I mean, anything that you think goes with chocolate to, you know, make it your own, make it your own flavour. I mean, whatever you like. But for now, we're going to set this one aside. You can either leave it to get down to room temperature. It will probably stay a little bit gooey and warm, but you do need to let most of the heat come out, but then you can pop it in the fridge as a nice cold set slice. So for us, that's going to take about an hour or so, but for you guys... Okay, so slice has cooled off to well below room temperature now, so we'll just pull him out and have a look. So just gently by the sides, and then you can just fold all the paper away. Smells amazing. Next step, we'll give this a quick cut and show you guys. So you can cut this actually in any size you want. If you want little small bite-sized pieces, you can. If you want big chunks of slice, that's fine. I like to cut just sort of, I like to call them grab and goes. So big, but not crazy big, but give it a cut. Alright, so that's about the size of the pieces I cut. But then, as you can see, it's still nice and gooey. It's not cakey as such. You can see a bit of the melted choc chips in there. Absolutely delicious. So I'll just get through now and just get all this cut up and ready. Alright guys, so all cut up, ready for the enjoying. Ray has already sampled a piece.
Yeah, I did. And guys, it is awesome, and it is always awesome, trust me.
So go on, get out there, give it a try, and let me know how you go. But in the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe. Chuck any comments in the bottom if you know you enjoyed this or there's something in particular you want to see. Like I said, got a combo of sweets and savouries to make. But yeah, don't forget to stay tuned for more of Em's Caravan Cooking.